Does CBD oil really help against anxiety? I guess you've seen a lot of reports, a lot of self-experiments on YouTube from people who claim that CBD oil really helped them with their anxiety. And of course, you can't completely trust these because you never know if it's a placebo effect. And of course, only those people who might have a strong effect, maybe a placebo effect, make a video about it. The other people never would make a video about it and would tell you, would be enthusiastic enough to tell you about their experiences. So it's really important that we take a look at the science. And I read almost every study about this topic, and there are many animal studies. There are some not that well done studies with humans, and there is one very well done study with humans that has been recently published in the journal Frontiers in Psychology, which is a very influential journal, and it really means something if something gets published there. And this is the study I want to present to you. I want to tell you what seems to be the evidence at the moment, and of course if there will be more evidence in the future, if there will be follow-up studies, I will tell you about it. So the study I want to present you is the study by Masataka. The title is Anxiolytic Effects of Repeated Cannabidiol Treatment in Teenagers with Social Anxiety Disorders. So as you can hear from the title, the participants were teenagers at the age of 18 and 19 who were struggling with social anxiety. And they were divided into two groups. One group received CBD oil 300 milligrams every afternoon, and the other group received from a bottle which was looking exactly the same amount of olive oil. So every afternoon somebody came to them who was also blind to the conditions, who did not know what he was giving to the participants, and gave one group the CBD and the other group received the olive oil. And here is already the first problem, little problem with this study, because in the CBD group, 3 participants dropped out. They stopped taking the oil because they said, well, I don't like the taste. I can't take the taste. And therefore, in this group, there were only 17 participants. Originally, there were 20, but 3 dropped out. And the problem is not that they dropped out. The problem is that it seems that the taste of the medicine in this group was quite different. So in this group, the taste was much worse, which could cause a placebo effect, because we know from placebo research that the more unpleasant, the more bitter medicine tastes, the stronger the placebo effect. So this might have been a little problem. It would have been much better if both groups had received pills, which on the outside, of course, look exactly the same. And of course, they also can be made in a way that they taste the same. Nevertheless, the results of the study were quite impressive, because after a period of 4 weeks in which they received every afternoon 300 milligrams of CBD, the group who had received the CBD oil reported much less anxiety. So in this group, the participants said, well, I really feel much better now. And they even felt so much better that more than 50% of this group now said, well, I will look for other ways to cope with my anxiety. So for example, they said, well, I will go to psychotherapy to work more on my anxiety. Whereas in the control condition, no one decided to work on his anxiety any longer. So maybe the experience that this CBD oil seemed to have worked gave them motivation, gave them hope that actually it's possible to change their condition. Now you might ask, okay, but how strong was the effect really? So in comparison, for example, to a normal anxiolytic medication, how strong is the effect? And interestingly, the scientist says, in comparison to the effect of paroxetine, for example, which is a commonly used medicine, the effects were the same. So even though we know that CBD seems to have much less side effects in comparison to traditional medications, the effects, at least in this study with, to be honest, not very much participants, seemed to be the same. And of course, it's not easy to compare the effects of one study with another study because there are different participants and different circumstances. So it would be much better to have a study in which participants from one participant pool would receive traditional medication, CBD oil and placebo. So this would be something for the future. But for the moment, these results are highly interesting. Unfortunately, we don't have a follow-up result. So we don't know what happens with the participants after several months or maybe 1 or 2 years. I hope that in the future the author of this study will also publish these results. But at the moment we don't know what happened later on. Maybe the participants fell back to their original fear, or maybe they had a long-lasting effect of the CBD oil. That would be very interesting. So what are the consequences from this study for the everyday user of CBD, of which you can find quite many at the moment? Does it mean that they are doing the right thing? It's hard to say, because the amount of CBD that was used in this study was, as I said, 300 milligrams, which is really a lot in comparison to what the normal user takes. Because you get a 5% bottle of CBD oil, and if you take 1 drop, at least with the bottle that I bought, there is 2.1 milligrams of CBD in 1 drop. And most users take about 5, 10, 15, maybe 20, maybe 30 drops. And then you can see, even if you take, let's say, 50 drops, you are still at just about 105 milligrams of CBD. And this is much less, just 1/3 of the amount that was used in this study. And this is something we observed in all the studies, that usually they take a lot more CBD than the normal users. So it is still not clear if these low doses of CBD that most people take really has an effect, or if those effects are due to placebo, which can be very strong in case of CBD, because whenever somebody has previous experiences with CBD, like for example when he smoked some grass when he was a student, then of course the placebo effect can be very strong, because as soon as you smell the taste of the oil, which reminds you of your previous experiences with this substance, your whole body gets reminded of what happened in the past, and then of course placebo effect can be very strong. But all that of course is just speculation. The truth is, we don't have the studies yet. We don't have studies in which only small amounts of CBD were taken. So for the moment, I think this study tells us there might be something serious going on. We don't know it yet because we need bigger studies, but we definitely have to follow this line of research and to find out what are the real effects, how are the side effects. At the moment, most studies that I took a look at reported no serious side effects, even at very high doses. But there seem to be some interactions with other medications. So if you are taking something, you should definitely check with your doctor and ask if there are any problems with side effects. And you also have to keep in mind that some CBD oils on the market are not perfect quality, and sometimes there's also more THC in it than allowed, and this actually can lead to a positive drug test if you are driving. So this is something you have to keep in mind. You can be tested positive by taking the wrong CBD oil. So as I said, I will keep an eye on this research, and as soon as I get very new and interesting results in my hands, I will definitely tell you about it. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you want, we will see you next time.